Hi students, good morning. Today's class is stresses in beams. It is under unit 3. In this unit 3, we have two parts. One is bending or flexural stresses in beams, and another is shear stresses in beams. There are two types of stresses generally developed in the beams. Uh, we will discuss in the first part bending stresses. It is also called flexural stresses. So what are the bending stresses? How the bending stresses will be developed in the beams when it is bends like an arc of circle due to the applied loads. Let us see one by one. As earlier we studied in the earliest chapter, that is shear force and bending moment diagrams chapter, we calculated the shear force and bending moment values in the beams along the length of the beam. To resist these bending moment and shear forces, some stresses will be developed within the beam due to applied load against the bending. So in this part, we are going to study, or we are going to discuss only the bending stresses without shear stresses. So next part, we are going to discuss only the shear stresses by neglecting the bending stresses. So first of all, by neglecting the shear stresses, here we are going to study only the bending stresses. A bending of a beam that is not accomplished by shear force is called the simple or pure bending. In this part, we are considering only the bending stresses, where the stresses induced in the beams while it is bending like an arc of circle. The diagram shows that when the beam will bend like an arc of circle with a concavity on the upper surface and convexity at the bottom surface, that is positive bending moment. It is also called sagging bending moment. Already I explained in the earlier chapter. So while the beam bends like an arc of circle with sagging bending moment, some of the fibers or some of the layers in the beam are subjected to tensile stress, and some of the layers are subjected to compressive stresses. In the diagram shows that a dotted line which shows the neutral layer, above the neutral layer, this is the neutral layer, above this layer while bending, all the layers will be subjected to compressive stresses or compressive loads, because the layers which are above the neutral layer are trying to contract during the bending, and the layers which are bottom to the neutral layer, below the neutral layer while bending, are subjected to tensile loads or tensile stresses are induced. The layers which are below the neutral layer are tensile forces. The layers on which the above the neutral layer are compressive forces or compressive stresses. So uppermost layer, that is uppermost means extreme layer from the neutral layer, are subjected to maximum compression, and the extreme bottom layer is subjected to maximum tensile stresses during bending of a beam like this. Clear, students? So the layers which are subjected to compression on the upper layers, and the layers which are bottom layers are subjected to tensile stresses or tensile forces. Somewhere else, the layer which is in neutral position, that means the layers on which the no stresses will be developed. So the stresses which is changes from positive, that is tensile stresses, to negative stress, that is compressive stress. Wherever the changes from positive to negative, whenever the changes from positive to negative, some layer is subjected to no stresses, that is zero stresses. The zero stress layer is called the neutral layer. Clear, students? While bending of a beam, one layer is there, one layer on which the no forces will be developed. That layer is called the neutral layer. So I showed here cross section of the beam. This neutral layer will intersect with the cross section. The line of intersection of this neutral layer with this cross section is called the neutral axis. That means, for example, this is the cross section of the beam like this. The beam like this, the neutral layer intersection with the cross section. This is the cross sectional area. This total cross sectional area. Neutral layer will intersect with the cross sectional area at the line. That is a line of intersection. This axis is called neutral axis. So neutral axis means the line of intersection of the neutral layer with cross sectional area is called the neutral axis. Clear, students? What is the neutral layer? Neutral layer is the layer on which the no stresses will be developed during the bending of a beam. What is the neutral axis? It is a line of intersection of neutral layer with the cross section. Clear, students? So flexural or bending stresses. The stresses induced in a beam due to constant bending moment with zero shear stresses. Zero shear force is known as bending or flexural stresses. So we are not considering any shear force on the beam, only we are considering the bending moment. During bending moment, the stresses induced in the beam are called the bending or flexural stresses. Bending stresses or flexural stresses. Clear, students? In this part, we are not considering the shear force and shear stresses, only we are considering bending moment and bending stresses across the section and along the beam. So here in this slide, I showed that neutral layer. What is a neutral layer? I already explained. The bending stresses varies from compression at one edge to the tension at other edge. And somewhere in between the two edges, the bending stress should be zero. The layer of zero stress due to bending is called neutral layer. And the line of intersection of neutral layer with the cross section is called neutral axis. Coming to the assumptions, some assumptions we are going to consider in this chapter during calculation of bending stresses. The assumptions in this theory of simple bending. What is simple bending? Simple bending is the bending of a beam without shear force only due to bending moment. So in this chapter, we are considering only bending moment. During that bending moment, we are considering some of the assumptions. First assumption is the material is homogeneous and isotropic. The bending of beam, the beam material is homogeneous and isotropic. Homogeneous means the beam material having same composition at everywhere in the beam. And also isotropic means the beam material having equal elastic constant in all directions. So that is called the isotropic material. A second assumption is that modulus of elasticity is same in tension and in also compression. While bending of a beam, it's subjected to compression on the some layer and tensile forces developed in the some layer. So whatever is the compression or tension, the modulus of elasticity of the material is constant and same in tension and in compression. That is the second assumption. And third assumption is that stresses are within the elastic limit. During bending of a beam, the stresses induced in the beam must be within the elastic limit while calculating the bending stresses. So the stresses must be proportional to strain in the beam while it is bending. So plane section remains plane even after bending. So while bending of a beam, the cross section of the beam must be plane at every cross section after bending. It must not bend like an arc of cycle. So the beam is bent like an arc of cycle, but the cross section of the beam must be plane after bending. Fifth assumption is that the beam is initially straight and stress-free. Before applying the load, the beam must be straight and stress-free. There is no stress induced in the beam before applying the load or before bending the beam. Sixth assumption is that every layer of the beam is free to expand or contract. During bending of a beam, each layer of the beam must be free to expand or contract. There is no restriction to expand or contract while bending of a beam. And last, seventh assumption is that the radius of curvature of the bent beam is very large when compared to the depth of the beam. So while bending of a beam, the radius of curvature will be formed. It must be very large when compared to the depth of the beam. That means it bends like an arc of cycle, very slight bending occurs. Whenever the slight bending occurs, the radius of curvature is very large. Okay, if it bends very closely, the radius of curvature is very small. That is which is reduced while the bending of a beam. That means the radius of curvature must be very large when compared to the depth of the beam. These are the 7 assumptions which we are considering in this chapter to calculate the bending stresses in the beam. So bending stress is also called flexural stresses. Flexural, flexural stresses. Let us look. The heart of this chapter is bending equation. Without this bending equation, we cannot proceed in this chapter. We cannot calculate the bending stresses in this chapter. So before going to calculate the bending stresses in each layer of the beam, we have to know the bending equation. So bending equation is the equation in which the parameters which are related to each other. What are the parameters which are containing the bending equations are applied bending moment. Bending moment means in the second unit we have studied the bending moment along the beam. Bending moment means the movement, the algebraic summation of all the movements on the right or left of the section is called the bending moment at that section. So that bending moment is one of the parameter in this bending equation, and bending stress, sigma, bending stress, that means the stress induced in the beam during the bending of a beam is one of the parameter in the bending equation, and radius of curvature. So during bending of a beam, it forms a radius of curvature or capital R, which is a distance from the center of curvature to the neutral layer is called the radius of curvature. These are the 3 parameters which are related to each other in this bending equation. Okay, this relationship can be derived in 2 steps. The relationship between these 3 parameters can be derived derived in 2 steps. That means first step we are going to derive the relationship between bending stress and the radius of curvature, sigma and R. And second step, we are going to derive the relationship between applied bending moment, that is capital M, and radius of curvature, capital R. Dear students, first step, we are going to derive relationship between bending stress sigma and a radius of curvature capital R. Before going to the derive this relation between these two parameters, look at the diagram given below. That is, the two diagrams are there, diagram A and diagram B. In the diagram A, this is the diagram where which shows the beam before bending. So the structure which is before bending, and diagram B which shows the structure of the beam after bending, like an arc circle. A part of the beam it is. Part of the beam which is straight initially before applying the load, and the part of the beam which is bends like an arc cycle after applying the load. So these are the two diagrams which shows before and after applying the load, and before and after bending of a beam. So let us consider two transverse sections or two cross sections, AB and CD. This is the one of the cross section, AB and CD, across the beam perpendicular to the axis. Two transverse sections, AB and CD, at a distance dx apart, delta x apart. This is the delta x. At a distance of delta x apart, we are considering two transverse sections, AB and CD. Clear, students? Those are perpendicular to axis of the beam. This is the axis of the beam. So on the transverse sections AB and CD, we are considering another points. NN is the neutral layer, and EF is the one of the layer at a distance of y from the neutral layer on which we are going to calculate the stresses. EF is the one of the layer below the neutral layer at a distance of y on which we are going to calculate the shear stresses. Clear, students? This is the one of the only one layer on which we are considering the stresses. This is the before bending. The points are A, B, C, D, E, F and N. Y is the transverse distance, that is, Y is the distance of the layer from the neutral layer. Clear, students? Then coming to the beam after bending. Beam after bending, when beam bends like an arc of cycle, it forms a center of curvature. This is the center of curvature O. The radius of curvature, which is distance from the center of curvature to the neutral layer like this. After bending, it bends like an arc of cycle. This is the neutral layer. All other points also changes from A, B, C, D, E, F to A, B, A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, and E dash, F dash. So A becomes A dash, C becomes T dash. While bending of a beam, the planes which are initially parallel to each other, but after bending, the planes are not parallel, which are subtended an angle of theta at center of curvature. So A dash, B dash, and C dash, D dash subtended an angle of theta at center of curvature. This is the one of the plane which is rotates after bending, and this is another plane CD after bending, C dash, D dash, which is rotated after bending. These two are subtended an angle of theta at center of curvature. Clear, students? So capital R will be formed, which is radius of curvature, and A dash, C dash, one of the topmost layer, and B dash, D dash is the bottommost layer. The bottommost layer subtended a maximum tensile while bending, and A dash, C dash is the uppermost layer which is subjected to a maximum compressive forces due to contraction of the layer due to bending. So EF is the one of the layer which is considering below the neutral layer, which is also subjected to tensile force and induced tensile stresses in the EF layer. Clear, students? While we are going to while we are considering this tensile on the EF, E dash, F dash, or EF or E dash, F dash, it is considering below the neutral layer. While beam bends like an arc of cycle like this, the layer which is E dash, F dash subjected to tensile. If we consider the layer above the neutral layer at this place, EF, if we consider EF layer above the neutral layer, after bending, E dash, F dash, which is subjected to compression, because we are considering above neutral. If we consider the above neutral layer, it is subjected to compression. If we consider the below neutral layer, it is subjected to tensile force or tensile stresses. So E dash, F dash, after bending of a beam, the EF becomes E dash, F dash, and it is subjected to tensile, which is at a distance of Y from the neutral layer. Clear, students? While bending of a beam, the lengths of the layers are increases below the neutral layer, and lengths of the layers are decreases above the neutral layer. So below the neutral layer, every layer of the beam will increases its length during bending, because the tensile forces, due to tensile forces acting on every layer, its length is increasing. And due to the compression force acting on every layer, each layer of the beam above the neutral layer, its length is decreases. Clear, students? So maximum decrease in length is a layer A dash, C dash. Maximum increase in length in the layer B dash, D dash, because which are extreme fibers, extreme layers from the neutral layer. So NN is the initial neutral point, neutral layer points. N dash is the after bending the neutral layer points. So as already explained, that the neutral layer means the layer on which there is no force acting, there is no stresses induced in the layer. So there is no forces on the neutral layer, therefore it doesn't affect by the bending. So if it is doesn't affect by the bending, it does not extend or contract the neutral layer during bending of a beam. That means it change in length is not affected at the neutral layer during the bending. So its length is same or similar before and after bending. Length is same. Length is length is constant during bending or before bending. That means the length of the neutral layer NN initially, which is equal to the length of the neutral layer after bending N dash, because it doesn't subjected to any force. Therefore, the length of the neutral layer is constant during bending. So NN is equal to N dash, but AC is not is equal to A dash, C dash, BD is not equal to B dash, D dash, and also EF is not is equal to E dash, F dash. Only NN is equal to N dash, because it is neutral layer. The length is does not changes. So EF is initial length and E dash, F dash is the final length after bending one of the layer. The E dash, F dash, of course, A dash, F dash is always greater than the EF. During bending, the length is increases. E dash, F dash is always greater than the EF. Let us derive the first step. What is the first step? The relation between bending stress and radius of curvature, sigma and R. Let us derive the first step during the derivation. Considering a layer, that is the two sections, already explained that, consider two sectional planes AB and CD at dx apart in a beam. Let NN be the neutral layer if EF is the layer, a layer at a distance y from the neutral layer NN. Initially, AC, EF, NN, BD is equal to dx. These are all the lengths are equal. Initially, before bending, AC is equal to NN is equal to EF is equal to BD, that is equal to delta X. Initially, they are equal before bending. But after bending, what is going on there? Let after bending, A, B, C, D, E, F and N take positions A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, E dash, F dash and N dash. So all the points will be changes from initial position to final position. Let capital R be the radius of curvature and theta be the angle subtended by A dash, B dash and C dash, D dash at the center of curvature O. So angle subtended by A dash, B dash is the one of the plane, C dash, D dash is the another plane, which are subtended an angle of theta at center of curvature. Then Nn is equal to n dash n dash, because the neutral layer doesn't affect by the bending. Therefore, length is initially Nn and finally n dash are equal. So since Nn is a neutral axis or a neutral layer. So what is the n dash after bending? What is the n dash? It is the arc. What is the arc length? How to calculate the arc length from the diagram? It is the r is the radius of curvature. The arc, that arc will subtended angle of theta at center of curvature. Therefore, arc length can be calculated by r theta, radius into angle subtended. Clear, students? N dash is equal to r theta, because n dash at a distance of r, radius of curvature at, from the center of curvature O. So r theta is the length, n dash that also is equal to Nn. So n dash and Nn is both are equal, that is r theta. Let us take the equation 1. So let us consider the strain. What is the strain developed in the layer EF, considered layer EF? During bending, the length is increases. So while length is increases, strain will be produced in the layers. What is the strain? EF, strain in EF at a distance of y from the neutral layer. So strain, how to calculate the strain in the EF? During the bending of a beam, the tensile forces acting like this, outward direction on the layer EF. Like this, the tensile forces act. Because it is below the neutral layer, whatever the layer which is below the neutral layer subjected to tensile forces. So this is due to these tensile forces, the strain will be produced on the layer EF or E dash F dash. So what is the strain? How to calculate the strain? Strain nothing but change in length of the layer divided by initial length of the layer. What is the change in length of the layer? The final length of the layer is E dash F dash, and initial length of the layer is EF. Before bending is EF divided by initial length. Initial length is EF. Clear, students? This is the E dash F dash minus EF by EF is the strain in the considered layer. మనం తీసుకున్న లేయర్ లో ఎంత స్ట్రెయిన్ జరుగుతుంది బెండింగ్ వల్ల అనేది మనం క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తున్నాం. So this is the strain. That is, the strain is represented by epsilon. Strain is represented by not delta, epsilon. Epsilon is equal to E dash F dash minus EF by EF. Clear, students? So during calculation of its strain in EF, final length minus initial length by initial length. Final length is E dash F dash after bending, minus EF is the initial length of the layer EF, and divided by initial length. But EF is, what is the EF? Before bending. Before bending, what is the length of the EF, which is equal to Nn? Nn is also equal to n dash. What is the n dash or Nn formula? R theta. So EF is also equal to Nn, that also is equal to R theta. So EF, initial length of the layer, is R theta. Clear, students? So EF, initial length of the layer, that also is equal to Nn. We know that Nn is the neutral layer length initially, and after bending, the neutral layer length is R theta. So therefore we can take it as so EF is the length of the layer before bending, and E dash F dash is the length of the layer after bending. So after bending, EF becomes E dash F dash. What is the length of the beam arc E dash F dash? How to calculate? Total distance from the center of curvature to the neutral layer is R. We are considering the Y distance. The distance of layer from the neutral layer is Y. Therefore, R plus Y, it is the distance from the center of curvature. It is subtended is also theta at the center of curvature. Therefore, how to calculate the E dash F dash? R plus Y is the distance, that is the radius, and theta is the subtended angle. So R plus Y into theta is the length of this arc E dash F dash. So r plus y into theta is the length of the or E dash F dash. Initial length of the initial length of the layer is r theta. Final length of the layer is E dash F dash. E dash F dash, that is equal to r plus y into theta. So then we can calculate the strain in layer EF. Strain in layer EF is equal to final length is r plus y theta minus initial length is r theta divided by initial length is r theta. So after cancelling, this r theta is cancelled in the numerator and y theta by r theta, therefore theta is also cancelled. Y by r is the final equation, that is the strain in the layer EF. So strain in the layer EF is equal to y by r. If the strain is more when the y is high, when the y is greater, that is the distance from the neutral layer is increases, then the strain in the layers also increases. The maximum strain occurs at the extreme fibers if y is maximum. And also radius of curvature. The strain in the layers are inversely proportional to the radius of curvature. If radius of curvature is more, the strain in the layer is also strain in the layer is less. If the radius of curvature is less means the beam bends very closely. The radius is decreases during the during that bending of beam. That is the during bending of a beam very closely. The strain is increases. The strain in the layers are increases. It is taken as second equation. Strain in layer EF is equal to y by r is the second equation, and NN is equal to r theta is the first equation. Dear students, so since strain in EF is due to tensile forces, how to develop the strain in the layer? Because it is below the neutral layer, it develops the tensile forces. So tensile forces, due to tensile forces, the strain will be produced in the layer EF. So from the Young's modulus definition, we know that already we say from the Hooke's law, we defined already Hooke's law. What is the Hooke's law? Hooke's law is nothing but the stress is proportional to strain within the elastic limit. So from the Hooke's law, we can write the strain in the EF because the strain or stresses will be developed in the any layer within the elastic limit. The stresses must be proportional to the strain in each layer of the beam. Therefore, from the definition of Young's modulus, we know that strain in EF is equal to sigma by E. Young's modulus is equal to stress by strain. So strain equal to stress by Young's modulus. Tensile stress which is developed in the layers divided by Young's modulus of the material. Sigma by E. Take it as third equation. Strain in EF is equal to third equation. From second and third, we can write as what is the strain in EF is equal to y by r in the second equation, and also strain in EF is equal to sigma by E in terms of Young's modulus. So therefore, from the equations 2 and 3, we can equate on the right hand side parameters. That is y by r in the second equation and sigma by E in the third equation. So y by r equal to sigma by E. After rearranging this equation, sigma by y, this y is taken into the denominator and E is taken into the numerator. After rearranging, sigma by y equal to E by r. That is the sigma is the bending stress which are developed in the layer which is at a distance of y from the neutral layer, and E is the Young's modulus of the material or is the radius of curvature. Like this, the relation between the stress, bending stress and radius of curvature represents as equation 1. Okay, sigma by y equal to E by r is the equation 1. This is the half of the bending equation. It is the relation between bending stress and radius of curvature. Let us go for the second step to derive the bending equation. In the second step, we are going to derive the relationship between bending moment, applied bending moment, and radius of curvature. That is capital M and capital R. How they are related? Let us look. So consider a beam which is initially straight, having the cross section, some cross section, either it is irregular or regular cross section. Consider any layer, that is the area of cross section of that layer is delta A. Already we considered the layer at a distance of 1 from the neutral layer or neutral axis. Here the considered layer cross-sectional area is taken as delta A. Delta A is the cross-sectional area of that layer, which is at a distance of y from the neutral layer or neutral axis. So consider an elemental area delta A at a distance of y from the neutral axis. So from the equation 1, what is the equation 1? Sigma by y equal to E by R. So from that equation, we can write sigma equal to E by R into y. So force on this element, this is the stress. Stress in the stress developed in the element. That sigma represents the stress in particular layer, a particular element. Here we are going to we are considering the delta A is the cross-sectional area of the element. The stress induced in this element is sigma equal to E by R into y. So let us calculate the force, how much force acting during the bending of a beam on that element. The force on this element, let us take dF is the force on that element during the bending of a beam. So dF is equal to, as we know that force is equal to stress into area. The stress in that elemental area is E by R into y, as mentioned in the above equation, sigma equal to E by R into y, that is the stress. Stress is E by R into y and equal into delta A is the cross-sectional area. Therefore, stress into cross-sectional area, we can get the force acting on that elemental area, tensile force acting on that elemental area during bending of a beam. After getting the force on that elemental area, we can calculate, or we can analyze the moment. What is the moment developed by that force about the neutral axis? What is the moment of this force about neutral axis? Let us take dm, small dm. This is the dm. Dm means that is the bending moment. That is a moment developed by the force acting on that element about neutral axis. So only one cross-sectional area, that is force acting on only one layer we are considering here. That's why I am taking dm, elemental area, moment developed on the elemental area. So dm is equal to, as we know that moment is equal to force into distance, perpendicular distance. So force is df, E by R into y into delta A is the force, as earlier said, into what is the distance from the neutral axis. The distance from the neutral axis of that layer is y. So force into distance y, we can get the moment of this force about neutral axis. So dm is equal to E by R, y 2 times is there, so y square into delta A. So dm equal to E by R into y square delta A. This is the moment of the force developed on one layer about neutral axis. Like that, the moments are all the moments. If we calculate, if we want to calculate all the moments developed on each layer of the beam about neutral axis, then we can integrate the above equation. Total moment of forces across the section is, let us take capital M. This is the total moment across the section about neutral axis. We can integrate the above equation, integration of E by R y square into delta A. Integration on left side, if we integrate the left side, we can get the capital M. dm becomes capital M. That is the total moment across the section. So capital M is equal to E by R is the constant, which is doesn't vary across the section, because it is the property of E is the property of material, which is same as the which is same throughout the material. And R is the radius of curvature, which is constant, means which is not affected by the area. Wherever the area we consider, the radius of curvature is same. So E by R is the constant which doesn't affect by the area, that is the distance from the neutral layer. So that's why I am taking outside of the integration, it is E by R is the constant, integration of y squared delta A. So integration of y squared delta A is the represents second moment of area, second moment of that particular area about neutral axis. About neutral axis. So second moment area, we can write it as moment of inertia. Already you know that in the engineering mechanics, from the definition of moment of inertia, what is the moment of inertia definition? It is the second moment of area about a centroidal axis or neutral axis. Here the centroidal axis is coincides with the neutral axis because neutral axis will be passing through the centroid, a center of gravity of a member or cross section. So moment of inertia means second moment of area. Integration y square delta A can be replaced by I. So I is the moment of inertia. It is called the moment of inertia. So from the previous equation, m equal to E by R integration y square delta A, in place of integration y square delta A, can write it as I, capital I. It is the moment of inertia of that particular cross section about neutral axis. So m equal to E by R into I. So m is equal to E by R into I. So by rearranging this equation, m by I, that is the I is taken into the denominator. So m by I equal to E by R. So take it as a second equation. Take it as second equation. M by I equal to E by R. The second equation represents the relation between bending moment, that is the m, applied bending moment capital M, and radius of curvature R. I is the moment of inertia of the cross section, and E is the Young's modulus, which is constant throughout the member during bending. So from the equation 1 and 2, by combining the equation 1 and 2, equation 1 is sigma by y E by R. Already we derived that equation, and equation 2 is m by I equal to E by R. M by I equal to E by R. By combining these two equations, we can write sigma by y equal to m by I is equal to E by R. These are the relations among the different parameters during the bending of a beam. This is called the bending equation. This total we have sigma by y, one of the parameter, m by I is another parameter, E by R is the third parameter, which are related, which are equal. The ratios are equal, which represents bending equation. In this bending equation, different parameters are m is the bending moment at particular section. Why I am calling it this particular section, the bending moment will changes along the beam, but not changes across the beam. So at particular cross section, the bending moment m, at that particular cross section, the stresses is sigma. So m is the bending moment at particular cross section. I is the moment of inertia about neutral axis. Sigma is the bending stress. The y is the distance of the layer from the neutral axis. This is the y is the whatever we are going to calculate. For example, we want to calculate the stress in particular layer. That layer distance is small y from the neutral layer. So the y is the distance of that layer from distance of particular layer from the neutral axis. E is the Young's modulus. We know that modulus of elasticity is Young's modulus. Capital R is the radius of curvature of the bent section. So it is the distance of neutral layer from the center of curvature is called the radius of curvature. So this is the bending equation in which 6 parameters are related with each other. Sigma, y, m, I, E, R. Clear, students? This is called the bending equation. From now onwards in this chapter, we are going to use this equation to calculate the stresses or maximum bending moment or radius of curvature. So this equation is very useful to calculate these 3 parameters. From the above equation, sigma by y, m by I, E by R, we can define another parameter, that is the section modulus. Section modulus. It is purely depends on the particular section. Either it is either it is a rectangular or a square section or circular section, whatever it is. The section modulus depends on the cross section. Section modulus is the ratio of moment of inertia of particular cross section about neutral axis to the maximum distance, that is the distance of extreme layer from the neutral axis, y maximum. This is the property of section which indicates the strength of that section, and it can be useful to know the bending moment, moment carrying capacity of the given section of the beam. So the section modulus tells us the strength of that section, how much that strength containing by that section, and also what is the moment carrying capacity of that particular beam section. These 2 parameters we can know by using section modulus, which is denoted by Z, capital Z. Z is equal to, it is a ratio of moment of inertia to the extreme fiber distance from the neutral axis. That is the Y max. Y is the distance of particular layer from the neutral axis. Y maximum is the extreme fiber layer, layer distance from the neutral axis. Extreme layer means topmost layer and bottommost layer. For example, let us consider a neutral layer NN. AC is the extreme fiber or extreme layer. BD is also extreme layer, maximum distance from the neutral layer. In between these two layers, AC and BD, is the number of layers in the beams. We are considering a number of layers. The beam is the a combination of number of layers like this. Number of layers are there. On this number of layer, the distance of every layer from the neutral axis, we are going to we are taken the Y. The Y, whenever the Y maximum where the extreme fiber distance, that is AC and BD, are the extreme fibers which are maximum distance from the neutral layer or neutral axis. Clear, students? So it is the Z is the I by Y maximum. It is the section modulus which represents the strength. If the moment of inertia of that particular section is high, then section modulus is also high. If the section modulus is high for the particular section, the strength of that section is more. So from the bending equation, sigma by Y equal to M by I, first two parameters from the bending equation, sigma by Y equal to M by I, or sigma equal to M by I into Y. Sigma max, the maximum bending stresses will be developed in particular section where the extreme fibers, where in the extreme fibers, the particular section means the particular layer means the layer which are extra far away from the neutral layer. In that layers, the maximum stresses are developed. Either it is compression or tensile. If a beam bends like an Markov cycle, the uppermost layer is subjected to compressive stresses, maximum compressive stresses. Bottommost layer induce the maximum tensile stresses. Whatever the stresses which are induced in the upper and topmost layer, maximum stresses are induced. The maximum stresses sigma max is equal to M max by I into Y max. So M max is the maximum moment, maximum bending moment at particular section, maximum bending moment in the beam, and I is the moment of inertia about neutral axis. Y max is the maximum distance from the neutral layer, the distance of extreme fibers from the neutral layer. So maximum bending stress has been calculated as sigma max is equal to, from the bending equation, max divided by, if we take the Y maximum into the denominator, it becomes I by Y max. I by Y max is the Z, section modulus. Therefore, maximum stress can be calculated by the equation M max by Z. M max is the maximum bending moment in the beam, and Z is the section modulus of the section, the particular cross section. Z is equal to I by Y maximum. So if we want to find the bending stresses, maximum bending stresses in the beam, we should know the maximum bending moment in the beam and section modulus of the beam. If we want to calculate the section modulus, we should know the moment of inertia at particular section about neutral axis and distance of that particular layer, extreme layer, from the neutral axis or neutral layer, the Y maximum. So this is the final equation to calculate the bending stresses in each beam or each layer of the beam. M max by Z. M max is the maximum bending moment, Z is the section modulus. Clear, students, up to now? This is the bending equation. We are derived from the basic equations, basic principles. Simple bending, what is the simple bending? We discussed in this class, and bending stresses or flexural stresses we discussed in the class. And what are the fibers which are developed as either tensile or compressive? What is the neutral layer and neutral axis? And assumptions which are going to take to calculate the bending stresses we discussed in this class. And we derived the bending equations from the basic principles, that is the sigma by Y, E by R, or M by I. Sigma by Y, M by I equal to E by R is the bending equation we derived in this class. And section modulus, one of the parameter which indicate the strength of that section. Section modulus Z, it is the ratio of I by my maximum we discussed. And finally, we written the formula for the maximum bending stress is equal to maximum bending moment divided by section modulus. Up to now, we discussed a lot of bending stresses. That is, up to now we discussed different parameters or different topics to calculate the bending stresses. Let us look in this class also section modulus. What is the Z value for different types of cross section of the beams? Section modulus means this is a Z. It is a Z which is a ratio of moment of inertia to the maximum distance from the neutral axis. That is the extreme fiber distance from the neutral axis. Let us look one by one the cross sections. We have approximately 4 to 5 cross sections. Basic cross sections, they are first rectangular section, first cross section, standard section. These are first rectangular section. This is the rectangular section that shows the diagram. In this rectangular section, the breadth of the section is B and depth of the section is taken as small d. The NA is the neutral axis which is passing through the center of gravity G. And the extreme fiber means this is the extreme fiber. This is also extreme fiber from the neutral axis. So this extreme fiber distances, maximum distance from the neutral axis Y max, which is equal to half of the depth of the beam. Here Y max is equal to half of the depth of the beam because neutral axis is mid depth. Neutral axis is always at mid depth of the cross section, rectangular cross section. That means the distance of the extreme layer from the neutral axis Y maximum, which is equal to D by 2 in this case. Dear students, width is the B, depth is the D as shown in figure. Since NA is the neutral axis is in the mid depth and Y maximum means is the extreme fiber distance from the neutral axis D by 2 in this case, and I is the moment of inertia of this rectangular section. Already you studied in one chapter in the engineering mechanics how to calculate the moment of inertia of different basic sections and also different derived sections. Derived sections means I section, T section, L section and C section. Also channel section. Like this, how to derive the moment of inertia for these sections you learned in the engineering mechanics. So what is the moment of inertia of this rectangular section about CG, about neutral axis means it is a BdQ by 12. It's the basic equation to calculate the moment of inertia of rectangular section BdQ by 12. Moment of inertia. You have to remember this formula BdQ by 12 for the rectangular section because you derived in the engineering mechanics already. So Z means the section modulus, it is the ratio of I by Y maximum. I is the BdQ by 12 and Y maximum is the D by 2. That is the mid depth of the beam. Mid depth means that is the Y max is equal to extreme fiber distance is the half of the depth D by 2. So finally we get the section modulus of the rectangular section as BD square by 6 or 1 by 6 BD square is the section modulus of rectangular sections. The students, hollow rectangular section. Hollow means it's the some of the material is not considered inside the rectangular. So it's having the breadth capital B, outer breadth, and inner breadth is small b, and outer depth is capital D, and inner depth is small d. The dimensions of the hollow rectangular section capital B, capital D, and small b, small d. Here the neutral axis is always a center for the rectangular section. It is symmetric about neutral axis or center of gravity. The Y maximum is extreme fiber distance from the neutral axis. It is capital D by 2. It becomes capital D by 2, not small d by 2. Okay. So we can Y maximum in this case we can take it as capital D by 2. So what is the moment of inertia of the section? The BdQ by capital BdQ by 12 is the total rectangular cross section. If you subtract the inner rectangle cross section, then we can get the moment of inertia of this hollow rectangular section. It's a hollow rectangular section. So capital BDQ by 12 minus small BDQ by 12. Therefore, 1 by 12 into BDQ by minus. So capital BDQ by minus small BDQ. Capital BDQ minus small BDQ. Y maximum is here. Capital D by 2. That is the extreme fiber distance from the neutral axis. Capital D by 2. Therefore, section modulus is IY by maximum 1 by 12. BDQ minus small BDQ by capital D by 2. So it becomes section modulus of hollow rectangular section is 1 by 6 into capital BDQ minus small BDQ by capital D. This is the section modulus for hollow rectangular section. Here capital B is the breadth of the outer section and small capital D is the depth of the outer section. Small b is the breadth of the inner section. Small d is the depth of the inner section. Clear, students? Like this, we can write the equations for section modulus for different sections. So let us look at the circular cross section. Circular cross section of diameter small d. Circular cross section of diameter small d. This is a circular cross section having the diameter d. The neutral axis is center of gravity is passing through the center of gravity g. And here the y maximum, that is the extreme fiber from the neutral axis, is d by 2. The radius of the circular cross section is d by 2. So I is the moment of inertia about neutral axis. Moment of inertia of circular cross section is pi by 64 d power 4 or pi d by 4, pi d power 4 by 64. This is the moment of inertia of circular cross section about diametrical axis, that is the neutral axis. Y maximum is a small d by 2, that is the radius of the circular section. Therefore, section modulus Z is equal to I by Y maximum. I is the pi by 64 d power 4 divided by Y maximum is d by 2. Therefore, pi by 32 d cube is the section modulus for the circular cross section. Section modulus for the circular cross section. Then hollow circular section. Section modulus for hollow circular section is similar to the circular section. Here moment of inertia is pi by 64 capital D power 4 minus pi by 64 small d power 4. There we have two circular sections here. Outer section diameter is capital D, inner section diameter is small d. If we subtract the inner section, we can get the hollow circular section. Here the Y maximum means the neutral axis, the outermost layer distance from the neutral axis. Outermost layer from the neutral axis is capital D. It becomes capital D by 2. So Y maximum is capital D by 2. Moment of inertia is pi by 64 capital D power 4 minus small d by 4, d power 4. Therefore, section modulus Z is equal to I by my maximum pi by 64 d power 4 minus small d power 4 divided by d by 2. So it becomes Z section modulus for hollow circular section is pi by 32 d power 4 minus d power 4 by capital D. Dear students, this is the section modulus for hollow circular section. Lastly, we have another section. Triangular is the basic section of the beam. For this, the neutral axis, which is passing through the center of gravity at a distance of h by 3. If we take the dimensions of the triangular section is b is the breadth of the triangular section and small h is the height of the triangular section. If we take the h is the height of the triangular section, then center of gravity will be located at a distance of h by 3 from the base or 2h by 3 from the apex. 2h by 3 from the apex. In these two cases, h by 3 and 2h by 3, y maximum becomes 2h by 3 because the extreme layer maximum distance, the neutral axis from the neutral axis, that is the extreme layer means here is also, here one layer is extreme layer, here also one extreme layer will be there, and whichever the maximum distance from the neutral axis, that will be the y maximum. So whichever 2h by 3 is the maximum distance of, that is the apex is the maximum distance from the neutral axis. That's why y maximum here we are taking 2h by 3, not h by 3. Okay. So moment of inertia about neutral axis of this triangular section is bhq by 36. bhq by 36. Clear, students? So y maximum is 2h by 3. Therefore, we can write the section modulus for a triangular section is I by y maximum. bhq by 36 is the moment of inertia. 2h by 3 is the y maximum. That is the distance of extreme layer from the neutral axis. So therefore, the section modulus becomes BH square by 24 for the triangular section. These are the some of the section modulus values for standard cross sections. If we know this section modulus, then we can proceed this chapter. That's why I indicate the section modulus for different cross sections, basic cross sections. These are the basic cross sections. From this basic cross sections, we can write the section modulus for different derived cross sections like T section, I section, L section, C section, whatever it is. So derived cross sections are there. From this basic cross sections, we can write the section modulus for the derived cross sections. Clear, students? Up to now, we're closing this class. In the next class, we are going to discuss the maximum bending moment values for different standard beams. Already in the second chapter, we calculate the maximum bending moment values, bending moment along the beam for different types of beams. That is cantilever, simply supported and overhanging beams. In this chapter, we are just write the formula for the maximum bending moment to calculate the bending stresses in the beam. Clear, students? Thereafter, we go for worked examples to calculate the bending stresses for different types of beams and sections. Okay, students? I'm closing this class. Up to now, bye.